Yes. All right, 7 o'clock. Wave and let them know we're gonna start.
Are they recording? 'Cause it's
That's what all these things are, I assume.
Oh.
I heard that
'cause
things.
usually- Oh, did you hear? Okay. All right.
Is Mark around?
I haven't seen him, but he'll show up. We got a public hearing, continued from.
Hold on.
It's on and record.
Raj, can I see your name, please, if I spell it correctly?
Should there be a
Stop,
light
it's
on
not
the
doing-
units if it's on?
Stop.
I saw something blinking up there.
Thank you very
No.
much.
Let me try one more time.
Nope, you got it.
Thank you.
Where's the AV squad again?
Yeah.
Oh,
What a
Mark's
crowd.
here.
Yeah. We are waiting for you.
Good.
Yeah, we need some technical assistance.
We have a film strip to show.
That's right. That's my speech.
So you remember those, okay? So you're dating
Yeah.
yourself.
Yes.
Film strips.
Film strips, that was better than doing
And
the
it would
work.
beep, and it would beep, and you.
I want to make sure I spelled it
Okay.
correctly.
You what?
I wanted to make sure I spelled it correctly. I-E.
That's all right.
I.
All right, well, it's pretty easy, so, public hearing, I want to open the public hearing for the continued public hearing on the site plan review for Bethlehem Bible Church at 307 Lancaster Street. So right now, we've been requested to extend this because they haven't completed the changes made to the plans or needed to the plans, so they requested a continuation until September 13th at 7 o'clock. Does anyone have any discussion on that? Or
No?
can we get a motion?
Motion to continue?
September 13th.
September 13th at 7 o'clock.
Okay.
Yep.
Second?
Who made the motion?
Raj.
Oh, Raj.
And second?
Paul?
Okay, all in favor?
Hi.
Aye.
Aye? No, we're ahead of schedule.
You were gonna spend a half an hour now? We gotta sit?
No. Old business, the vehicle weight zoning bylaw discussion.
Ah, yes.
And that's including all the zoning bylaw discussions. I'm not sure, people remember that we had a question of,
Yes.
right now, the zoning weight limit is 18,000.
Right.
Yes.
Remember
I
what?
brought it with me.
Do we want to get in the middle of that? And is it in the town's best interest to do any changes to that? What do people think?
The town as a whole to get involved in it? I don't think the town as a whole is involved in it.
Well, have they gone any further with?
The town.
Oh, I guess, did we get any
Do you
information
have any
from
information?
Bentley? He was gonna get us information, and I haven't seen anything.
Well,
Nothing I know.
but have they, weren't they gonna go to court or?
It's already, well, it went to court. The town was upheld, the town bylaw was upheld, but they're appealing it. So the guys still got
So
the
the bylaw
truck.
was upheld,
Right, so it's still good.
but he had a low weight on his truck or something?
Well, yeah, but he's still appealing it, is what the issue is.
No. His vehicle weight is high,
So it is still high, I
more
thought
than-
that there was some scamming thing that he was doing.
more
there.
than high, more than the bylaw.
Okay.
Right, but he got a registration certificate from
Yeah,
Registry of
There are,
Motor Vehicles.
there are so many things going on. So he lost it, the town won, and he is going for again.
So he's appealing.
Appealing.
it, Right,
Okay,
But-
so
so
what's,
do
so
we
what's the
need
tight
to-
then?
that's, well, and we were waiting for something from, Bentley.
Building
The
commissioner.
building inspector,
Building commissioner.
building commissioner, sorry.
Can I just ask, Raj, when you're saying that there's more involved, is there something more specific to the law other than the weight limit?
He claims that he is parking only the trailer, the
At the
Yeah.
cab.
cab. So, and also during the time of registration, he gave the lower weight. So he showed the lower weight to the building inspector. When you go register with the RMB, you gave a weight. that weight is not the correct weight.
Okay, so
So-
it is specifically to the weight of the
Yeah.
vehicle
So
more so than
with
anything
that,
else.
With the number, vehicle number and model, make,
Yeah.
everything, the vehicle weight is more than what he claims.
Okay,
Just with the
All right,
cab.
so it is-
We're not concerned about the trailer part. He
Yeah.
never parks there with the trailer part, right?
So,
But the more complex is that there seems to be an argument between these two neighbors, and
they were, yeah,
they
they were,
claim that he runs it
they
early in
did-
the morning,
they
and
did-
the fumes
yeah.
go across the fence, and,
Into their bedroom or something.
yeah, so, right.
But it's gone to court, so it's beyond us anyway.
Yeah.
Well, it is, and I'm not,
Right.
su- I'm not
So-
convinced we should change a town bylaw for one particular case, which in this case is more, as you say, more complex than just the
more
simple
complex,
weight.
yeah.
And the court upheld our bylaw as being legal, and if it were implemented that way, it would stop the problem. So I think our
No,
bylaw is.
bylaw is legal. What he want is, she want to reduce the weight,
Mhm.
now from 17 to something.
18 to
18 to
10.
14.
Yeah.
14,
Yeah.
So that it definitely, that whatever the weight, it will be definitely considerable
Well, and our
higher.
concern was, would that be fair? Would
That's the,
would that harm people who don't need to be harmed?
yeah, so all the other people.
Yeah, if someone's a contractor who just has a big pickup truck,
Right.
so, and we were waiting for info, which we haven't gotten, so.
Well, do we have a public hearing to get the info, or should
No.
we get it?
No.
No, just
We
a
don't-
request, that's just request information.
Right, the idea was that we would get that information, and then if it was warranted, we would post a public hearing, and then.
If we were gonna change the bylaw.
zone change.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. But we would certainly hear from people,
No, building commissioner is supposed to do some research,
yes.
Yeah.
talk to the other towns, you will get the figures. Is that right?
Well, we were trying to see what, to get some figures from other towns, and also to find out
Yeah.
what vehicles might trigger the.
Well, I think that this, a cab to a tractor trailer is never gonna be rated at 18,000 pounds. I mean, it's, or less. I mean, it's gonna be rated, because then they couldn't carry anything. I mean, in a trailer isn't rated for, I mean, it's rated for weight, but the tractor governs, kind of in the setup.
We
that
need,
you
we
need a
need
pair.
more information, basically.
But
there are-
but this just seems scammy that he's trying to say that his
I
tractor
think,
weighs
maybe
18,000.
at this time, maybe we can let it go.
So we can.
Once
well,
the case is finalized, then we may be able to talk more.
Yeah.
That time, maybe it will be wise to change or do something.
Right.
At
Well,
this time,
so
it's
that-
still in the court.
Right, so
there
it's
is-
still in courts, so I hear that we're not gonna make the zoning change, so we're not gonna go forward with the zoning change.
well, there's not enough time right now, anyway.
Well, that's the
if
thing,
you're-
we would need something today,
Yeah,
so that we could try to schedule it for our next meeting, and that's what I was gonna
Right.
go into next. We requested from other town boards last, I think it was April, any potential zoning changes. We made a list of what we were discussing, and we didn't get any feedback. Nobody was up in arms about any of the zoning bylaws when we asked them.
Right.
So I don't think we're gonna have time now to make any changes to the zoning bylaws at our fall town meeting.
And the only one I think that is pressing is the marijuana one, but I don't think we know what to do there. I don't think the
Right,
state
we're-
knows what to do there.
Right, we were waiting for the state to act or provide guidance, which they haven't. So, okay, so then we're probably not gonna, unless there's some big push from somewhere,
Right.
I don't expect to do any zoning changes at the October town meeting.
oh, are you talking about update on meeting with building inspector regarding zoning violations?
Nope,
Oh,
number
no,
one.
no, oh, number one.
Number one,
So that was,
The
Up until, for October town, and the other ones,
So
okay,
the other
other than the
idea was-
vehicle weight,
other than vehicle weight, we have gotten no feedback that zoning changes are needed.
okay.
So therefore, we're not gonna recommend any, right?
Did we have a request though? Besides this one, did we have somebody, selectmen, not come through to us, or,
No, it was in the open space and rec plan,
yeah?
it requested consideration of adding a buffer on parks properties to
Oh.
add a vegetated buffer of 30 feet, similar to what our buffer is for any other residential area.
Okay. But that would have had to
Well, no, we
kick us
wouldn't,
off?
we would, the open space and rec plan hasn't been approved by the state yet.
Okay, so
So once that gets approved, then we will
action.
ask the planning board or ask the selectmen to then refer to the planning
Yep.
board for action, so it'll probably be next spring.
You're right. And there wasn't we weren't gonna try to do electronic signs, was there somebody talking about that?
Oh, that's right, changing the,
Yeah, but
Yeah.
nobody, they have to send it to you, right?
Well, we didn't get the request, I don't.
we
Yeah.
haven't seen anything, and it was supposed to come from the selectmen to refer to us.
There
Or-
was
or
a talk,
refer it to us.
there was a talk, but nothing happened.
No letter or request, okay.
Right.
So-
Well, I will check with the
Well,
select board.
and I haven't had the time to really look through the sign bylaws because there are some discrepancies in there that just needed, there was some fixing up that needs to be done.
Yes, yeah. But
Yeah,
we can
there's
work on
fixing
that.
up in a lot of them.
I know, yeah, that's not the only one.
Okay.
We need to dig out Chris's letter.
I looked at it earlier
Oh, yeah.
today, and it had a list of all the different
Right.
things we were thinking about, but we didn't get any feedback, so.
Right, so nobody's itching for it, so we.
Right.
we're okay.
Maybe we should start
We should.
early on, not
I think we sent
towards
that
the
out
end of
early
it.
on. The
Oh,
letter
we
We
was,
sent-
sent that early on,
Yeah, it
but,
was in April or May that we
but I
sent it
think with
out.
us meeting like summer,
Yeah,
you
summertime.
know, summertime, it's been,
Right.
and then with
Quiet.
the hearings that we've had before, it's just been disrupted our time.
But I think we're doing the right thing, but we haven't had anyone knocking at the door saying this
Right.
needs to be a
That's
change.
true,
Once in a while.
right.
So that's good, because usually they're banging on the door. All right, so update on meeting with the building inspector regarding zoning violations. Well, I had a meeting, I met with the building inspector, town administrator, and chair of the selectmen. And we reviewed all the, what was it, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 issues that were in that email from
Reviewed
July
all of them?
23rd. Yep, we went through all of it.
Oh, nice.
And hopefully, he sent notice to people that they're gonna be coming into us, the ones that need to. And, he sent notice to, well, actually,
on the cross.
he was saying he was gonna send notice to everybody on the list. And I think so far we've heard back from Flag RV that they're gonna be coming to our meeting tonight
Yeah.
to talk about something.
I did touch base with, I actually touched base with, Wachusett
Liquor store.
liquor store, and their difficulty right now is where their engineer is not providing them the documentation. They said that they wanted to be at tonight's meeting as
Oh,
well.
But then,
They're having difficulty with the engineer, and so he said if he wasn't gonna be here tonight, then he'd like to be able to come to the next meeting. When I spoke to him last week, he didn't think that he was gonna be able to make it.
That's
because
great.
the-
Yeah, I mean, it's been years, so as long as we get some
Yeah,
progress,
I
I
mean,
think that sounds good.
Yeah,
If we get it in September, that'd be perfect.
he's hoping.
All right, so that's good. So I guess, so it means that Bentley has contacted some anyway.
Yeah.
So,
okay.
so that's what it was. We talked about what was needed and reviewed the regulations and,
We should have them all on one night. A long night.
yeah, it'll be a long one. So, I think that's
Okay.
that issue.
They'll continue to pursue.
Yeah.
Right. Yep, and follow up.
We should probably put it on the agenda to
Yes,
Keep
put it on the
track of
next
it.
agenda.
police station.
Yep, next is the police station site plan review discussion. We got electronic notification of stuff going on. I reviewed one, but I haven't really, you had to go in and log in and do all that other stuff, so I only looked at one thing and it was not anything. It was, so they're working, they're getting things done, they get some punch list items. They're not asking for final review, they're not asking for anything as far as I know. So,
But what,
they're in the process.
there's sort of, I saw an email from you about they had not really been in compliance with sending us anything.
Yeah,
They would just sort of had things on their system and we had a login and it was our job to go track
Yeah.
them.
Yes, I talked to that with the building inspector and them, town administrator and John Hadley, and said that we're a bunch of volunteers, just send us a copy of the report so we can just
Right.
open it up
Just look
and
at
read it.
Right.
So they said that's what they were gonna do. Well, turns out that we didn't get that.
Okay.
We still haven't gotten it, but you can
Yeah,
only
they're
say it so
working.
many times, and if it comes down to the time when they need their stuff fast, and they said, well, it was in the report from August 22nd, it's like, well, they
Okay.
didn't send it to us, so we don't know that you need it, so we'll go as fast as we can to get it done when we
Right.
can.
When do they expect to open that?
September.
September?
Really?
Will be
So
done
how are
at
we gonna
end
do
of
the
September.
review?
Then
End
don't
of
they need,
September, all the work will be done.
don't they need something soon
And
then?
when is police?
I would think so.
September is like. real
Let them
soon.
take their own time because, they have to move the stuff, this thing, that thing,
Right.
filing.
All
I,
right,
I,
well, I will mention that
I would
also.
assume, they want to move in
What
quick.
do you call that?
Yeah.
What do you call that? I'm saying building reports, but it's not building reports. New status,
Construction,
Fields.
construction report.
construction.
No, what does the guy call them? That one,
I don't know what he calls them.
Field reports?
I thought it was like fields, something.
Field report.
All right.
Like from the VHB when they do
Yeah,
that?
like BHP when
I'll
the
put
guy.
construction slash field reports.
There's a packet of stuff. Yeah, Melanie printed it out. She printed all the Cardinal
Oh.
reports out.
Oh,
So-
good job.
If anyone wants to read, they're welcome to it.
Every once in a while,
not
I'll
really
click on them,
exciting.
but no.
I don't need to do that.
It's
That's-
too much
you're
time.
good.
It's too much time.
All right.
It is.
So he sends.
So that's, anything else on police station site plan review?
Oh, to you?
Yeah, he will send it on like that.
Anything else on the police station or site plan review discussions?
Oh, I was driving by and I actually pulled in and I was surprised at the police station at how close the houses behind the police station actually are. I thought, when I looked at it before and it was all trees, I thought that there was, 100 feet
Which
before
side?
you got to the
Which
property.
side?
Police station.
Which side?
No.
Oh, the
right
back. Well, the right side if you're looking at it from the
The
street.
right
right
side,
side.
looking at it from the
No,
street.
So there will be a fence,
Okay.
there will be trees. We have, the town is.
Yeah,
gonna
I mean,
plant
I was
trees.
just surprised at how close the houses were. I thought it was
Yeah,
sort of a,
At the same time,
100 feet.
those trees are still there, right? Some of the trees
Yes.
there.
yeah.
So, I think in the fall, they are going to plant more trees. In
Okay.
the people's.
In the next
We
couple
get
of
the-
weeks?
yeah.
Yep.
Okay, in their yards, on
In
their side of the fence.
on their side of the thing.
And there's gonna be a fence.
Fence also, not the entire place, so
Yeah,
certain area.
Just in front of the building.
Yeah, and also on the
No,
back
no,
side,
The only fence that I thought the only fence we were getting was the one to block the chain link
The
fence.
chain link.
no. Yeah, that's the
Do-
one other thing.
Don't they have
But
like a
the-
table back there or something?
Well, we had
Yeah.
asked, we had asked if there would be a fence along the houses.
Yeah.
Right.
Because, it's, they were going back and forth, how much, cost wise, and also those residents, they wanted it.
Right,
Yeah.
makes
And
sense.
the other thing is, on the back side of the police station, nothing is there. Just
I
a
thought they were
couple
gonna
of
have like a-
windows, couple of windows.
Oh, I thought they had a lunch table or something like
Yeah, but how many times they are going to sit there and have lunch?
that. I don't know. Once.
All those residents, all the homeowners, they don't want to see the police station, that's why they want a tree or something to block it.
Right.
Reasonable.
And I
So
think they
that's the
said,
reason.
yeah.
Other than that, they are not seeing the activities in the police station.
Maybe they don't want the police to see their activities.
No,
Maybe. I think Mark's got it.
All right.
So
All
I
right.
was just surprised with how close that was as well, that's all.
Okay, good. Yeah, because they normally would show them on the site plan, but
Right.
they didn't because it was too expensive or there was
To
some
draw.
issue with it. So, but that's all right. That works. All right, next on the agenda is Briarwood Communities Senior Living. I assume that's you guys.
All right.
I'm glad they came early.
do you have to wait until 8?
What's that?
Do you have to wait until 8?
No,
It's not a
no, it's not a
'cause
public
it's
hearing.
not-
Wait, no.
Yeah, I'm sitting here. Nice.
Forgot the easel.
Oh, nice. Well, this one of these, I think that'll get it, because we're on TV or whatever it is,
Okay.
cable. Just so you're
You
aware.
want to grab
So we
one?
give your name and
Good evening.
slowly, we're
Slowly.
not new, or we are new.
We're new at secretarial or whatever.
Oh, yeah, I'm not really the secretary. I'm taking notes for her.
I'm John Gilsich from Gills and Thomas.
I'm Sarah Maciel from Cutler Design.
So we wanted to come in, and Sarah's gonna give a little walkthrough as to what we're proposing. We just wanna come in, Melanie had suggested we come in and talk to you guys about what the process should be for this. We're proposing an expansion. I believe there's a special permit already on site, so we just want to talk through all that with you guys and just see, what suggestions you have, what process we should go through, and if there's any comments or feedback you guys have right now. But I think Sarah wanted to go through
Yes,
scheme first.
sure. So Briarwood's a senior living community, with access, the main access from East Mountain Street in Worcester. They currently existing on the site are independent living and assisted living apartments. And our project is this pink area, attached to an existing community center. This Birches in the yellow is existing independent living apartments, and the new apartments in the expansion will be the same independent living as is in the Birches now, with a connection to that existing, and also a wellness and memory care portion of the project. And that's kind of the overall,
That's good.
check.
Was this in the original master plan?
Yes, very schematically, but a kind of a block in this area, always attached to the Birches.
So the work, just to go a little past that, is the building of the actual facility. Some changes to the parking, the fire road that goes back here, and then this proposed future building is not drawn out right now, but they want to kind of plan for it and assume that it's going to be there. There's some other work that's going on over here, and some other stormwater, associated stuff on the site. All of it's being in West Boylston, though, none of it is crossing the border into Worcester.
That's what we like.
So we just wanted to talk to you guys about this. We assume special permit. We didn't know if it would be a new special permit or if it would be a major amendment to a special permit.
When was the original permit? How long ago?
It was going on, it was 4 phases, this is like phase 5, I think, but it was done in 99 through 2012 maybe, or 2014, I don't,
Yeah.
the dates may be
Sounds
off.
right.
But generally.
Did it close out?
We issued a certificate of completion
Okay.
on the work that was done. But they had a master plan that
Yep.
gave us the whole idea that it would get built up.
Oh, so that's a weird one. So do we,
Yeah,
do
yeah.
we say that it'll?
Well, no, we didn't approve the master plan as site plan review, so it
Right.
wasn't, it was just a guide to what was coming. So I think it seems we just go through because it's within a continuing care retirement community section.
Zone, yeah.
So we go with a special permit, site plan review for that.
And just make it a new project, not an
New
additional.
application.
Yeah.
Right. And it was,
How many units?
There are 12 units per floor, 2 floors, so 24 new independent units.
Apart from that wellness and memory care.
Correct, yes, and 12 units of memory care studios, so.
No, they don't do that, do they?
I don't know, ask.
Would you have any affordable units that would be sort of at a lesser rent for the?
I'm not so sure on that from Briarwood's, I don't know the answer to that. I just know we're basically having the same units as what the existing has.
And there are no affordables anywhere else in the place?
I don't believe so, I'd have to check.
Yeah, we can check on that.
That would be something we'd be looking for in the
Okay.
site plan review, we're trying to meet the percentages,
states.
the percentages.
Yeah.
And if we're gonna be putting 24 units in, that
2 units, or something like
things
that.
down for others, so it might be.
And there's still, there would be the same unit, there's no,
Right,
it would just be a different a different application process for the people going in, is what, or an
Right.
additional application process.
okay.
So that was one, affordable.
And you mentioned parking, 24 more units, how much more parking are you?
So there is some change to the parking over here, but there's also going to be, 40 spaces below?
Yes, below the apartments. And
Oh,
that's
like a
the
garage?
drive-in Underneath, yeah.
Oh, okay,
Open in the front, but it'll be enclosed in the back, so. yeah,
40 spaces?
Yes.
So more than, okay. So
What's our zoning, is it 1.5 per unit? I thought it was 2 per apartment,
Thought it was-
but that's something to
We
look
can
at.
check, yeah.
And if you have records of what you really need out there, because it is kind of a self-contained area, it's not as though you're gonna be parking on a street.
Right,
So if you have justification for having less, then bring that along, just.
Right, because it's your problem to solve.
Right, okay.
I like the idea. And then somewhere, someone I talked to about the open space.
We talked to you about that, that's what we're on next. Yeah, so we were unable to find, through the CCRC, we're supposed to have 25% dedicated open space. And it's supposed to be recorded on the registry. And we were unable to find that in our record and search. And no permits in town actually showed that 25% being designated. So we're going to hopefully work with you guys and find the best place to dedicate the 25% and figure out where on the site. we can-
Where does the property keep going, or is that all the property?
It does keep going.
Right.
It's pretty
So there's
large,
more
a lot
room
of
to-
cottages,
There's more room,
yes.
but it's just, it was supposed to be designated and never was, and now we're trying to figure that out.
Can we do one of these, like, since they're parking under, if we plant lawn on the top, can that count?
I like the thought.
I mean, it's
That's
insulated,
a great idea.
it's got a lot of good properties.
Yeah, well, this because it's a deeded open space, it has to go through some chapter 90 or some process for protection. We did it with Angel Brook as well as Hillside Village. So those records should be somewhere available.
It's deeded to.
It,
which is-
it's within the deed. It says that it's limited, and that has to be recorded at the Registry of Deeds, and it has to be recorded with the State Department of, I don't know if it's Conservation Services or
The 25%?
Fisheries and Wildlife.
DCR, something, yeah.
Yeah, one of those organizations, right. And it's just, it's a standard process to go through, because then that gives us credit towards, or I think it gives us credit towards the unavailable land for affordable housing, that second, alternative standard.
Always, we're always fighting that battle.
Yes, always.
What are the funny blobs on the left and the top there? Are those existing buildings?
These?
Yeah.
Yes,
Those are existing buildings.
In Briarwood?
yes.
okay.
There's cottages.
Okay.
So that's those.
And where is the access from West Boylston? It's further over on the left of this.
No, it's,
This is the main access. I
I don't think you can get there from
don't
West
think
Boylston,
you
can
can
you?
get there from the West Boylston.
no, in the, no, in Shrewsbury Street, you cross the Shrewsbury Street, there is an entrance to Briarwood.
Right, more down.
Well, there's there's an entrance down on Mountain Street, and then there's one
Right,
on.
that's on Mountain
That's on,
Street.
this is on
That's
that
an
one.
east
So there's
one.
another one around the
And
corner.
so the other one is
up near-
on Briarwood.
I believe, so I have to look.
It's not, actually, it's not in
Right.
Worcester.
It probably isn't in Worcester, it's
not-
probably still
it's
in
in-
Worcester, but it's on
Still
that
in
street.
Worcester, yeah, still in
Okay,
Worcester.
Yes, it is in Worcester, that's right.
But there is a big amount of the site that is in West Boylston.
Yep, that's great.
Yep.
Yeah, and that 25% is what's required under the CCRC. That would, if we have to reduce that, that would be a variance, but if there's some way to make it, we're definitely not gonna get all one area as being open space. But if you can break it up to the green spaces that already exist, because that's one of the requirements, it's a conservation area, so that would be, it would be helpful.
Do you think that's gonna be hard to hit? I mean,
I
are you
don't think
built
it's
out?
hard to hit. It's just with any future plans or anything like that,
Right.
you need to take into account as to where it's gonna be. So that-
Right. So you don't
I guess
build on
we were talking before, you could move it, but that's something you probably don't wanna do. You'd rather have it set.
it, established in front.
Exactly.
And so with this plan, would this be the final plan with everything you propose in the future? Because we can approve it as like a phase 1 and a phase 2, so that the phase 1, so it all gets approved. You don't have to go through the process in the future, assuming that the regulations don't change. The phase, we would just look at the phase 2, if it came 5 years later or 3 years later, we would say, okay, did the rules change at all? Do you have to amend things to make it match?
Mhm.
But generally, if you come in with the whole shooting match, you get your permits, you're all done, you do construction, we can give you a partial release on the construction for just the apartments, and then whatever else was that little building might be, we could do that at a later time, and our approval would have to say that it's gonna be for a period of 2 years for the first phase, and then 3 years after that.
So then you just keep coming in and extending it, like,
Yeah,
like
well,
everybody else.
Yeah, we always try to encourage the extensions, if there's a good reason for not building it, I think we're all going the same direction there. But you would have to come in, remember, and come in, because there's an
Just before it
automatic.
expires.
Okay,
So there's an automatic, if you don't come in and talk to us, just because we forget it, doesn't mean it extends, so it's an
Right.
automatic expiration. But we would
Okay.
try to draft it, and we would send you the draft of our approval letter prior to the action on it, so you can make comments to that when we get to that point too.
Okay, great.
The parking,
Okay, so one,
it's one
You're saying
space
there's one space per,
per
per-
bedroom, I would say.
or 3 beds, so it's like
I
3?
know, but that's for convalescent and rest home. They're not,
Nursing?
they're
It's on
not a
nursing
rest
home?
home. It
yeah,
has apartments, so I would say lodging.
yeah. So our
It's
parking
one-
requirements are not real clear, so be ready to defend what you say. 'Cause
Looks like the most is 1 per bedroom.
reasonable is what we're looking
Yeah,
for.
one per bedroom.
And are these
Okay.
two-bedroom units?
It's half and half. Some are, there's 12 that are 2-bedroom and 12 that are 1-bedroom.
So that might be how the number came up. Good.
And aside from planning board, we're also gonna be going for notice of intent, because wetlands over here, so we're
Yeah,
the
conservation.
buffer.
Oh, okay.
Conservation.
Good. And so your stormwater system is gonna be an underground system?
So I'm told there's gonna be no infiltration because it's all bedrock.
That's what I was gonna say, I've been out there, it's,
I believe it's going to tie into the Worcester system, but I'm not 100% sure.
okay.
Because it already ties into underground basins in Worcester. I don't know all the
In
details. I'm
the
not
Worcester
engineer.
piece of your property, or Worcester's?
Yeah, down here,
Okay,
I believe.
well, that'll be interesting.
So they're gonna figure all that out, but it's all bedrock, so that's the problem.
Yeah, I don't remember what the soil type is, but yeah, it was a tough area even next door. It's tough. But our requirement is that you have to meet the DEP standard, so even though you're not discharging it to a wetland, because it's in our site plan review, you still need to meet all the 7 standards or whatever
Yeah,
they
they
are.
plan on
10 standards.
designing to meet the DEP standards.
Who's the next property, is it the prison?
The prison is back. I don't know how directly adjacent they are, but it is.
But are they the
close back.
landowner that bumps into you, or?
No,
I don't know.
it's
Or is it the
mass,
industrial park?
mass materials research, I think. it
Oh,
is.
okay,
Oh,
so it's,
That does sound familiar.
Yeah.
okay, so it's the industrial park over
Yes.
there, okay.
Yeah, as you're going up, I think that was one on the top on the left side. And then there's like a big wide open space of undeveloped area, which, I know there was a detention basin, but that might be something, if you talk to St. Pierre, I don't know if they don't need
Oh,
that
is
space.
that right there?
So if you could acquire a piece of land that they're not even gonna use, you might be able to get your 25%, boom, in one spot that isn't gonna impact your future development.
I think there's gonna be a Girl Scout building.
No, the Girl Scout building is further over. Because
Oh, is
this
it?
doesn't go all the way up to, this goes up to, what's the, is the daycare for elders on your,
Norwood? Is it Norwood?
which way is north on this plan?
Oh,
Oh, it's this to match.
Okay, so
When
the
you-
east side,
and this.
the east of Butter there is, you have a butter before you hit the access road going up
Oh, you
into.
do?
Yeah.
up into
Right.
the industrial park, okay.
So that, I don't think that's gonna
Right.
impact the Girl Scout site, if the
Okay.
Girl Scouts are still working on that.
Right, okay.
Because right where you're holding the Girl Scouts, we're talking about putting in a new.
Girl Scout Center, moving off of Gold Star Boulevard.
Oh, okay.
So then they could volunteer.
They could
Yeah,
go
that's
volunteer.
right. I was gonna say they're a long time before they're residents.
Right.
Volunteering is a big, yeah.
that's right.
Well, my girls dance there every year, so,
Oh, really?
They do a
Oh,
little
okay,
show.
Good.
Or Briarwood.
yeah. They just, it's like a practice for a competition, so they go and they do their whole show.
Nice.
Think they have a hall for that?
In the community center?
Community.
Community center.
Really?
Yeah.
I've not.
And there's another one in the Elms or something like that. There's a smaller room in the Elms that they do, so that people don't have to walk all the way.
That's great. Excellent. Yeah, I only get to go out on construction sites when they're built. I never get to anybody. So that's, yeah.
Yeah, so if there's any more comments or questions, we'd love to answer them, but
Yeah.
it seems like we.
Traffic, I think you're all set. Within our bylaws, one of the things we've heard is that our engineer reviews our bylaw in detail. So that if you haven't submitted a traffic study and it says a traffic study is potentially needed, they will write.
So ask for a waiver.
So make a list, you can make a long list of waivers. We may grant them all, we may grant 5 of them. But make the list of waivers so that our engineer knows, and
And
they will
they'll
then
make a
say.
judgment too.
Yeah, they'll say,
Sure,
oh
sure.
yeah, you don't need a real traffic study here, but just parking and interior circulation stuff. But we don't need to analyze East Mountain Street.
Okay.
Um,
Going through the regular.
Did you both sign in?
Yes.
You're doing a great job.
Not really.
I know it's not Will.
I'm giving it all to Melissa, to Melanie, not Melissa. I'm giving it to
She
Melanie.
meant Melanie.
All right,
Melanie.
any other comments, thoughts? I think it's a great idea. Let's get it all going.
Great.
Hey, thank you for coming.
It's great.
Thank you very much.
I'm gonna leave my card.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, that's a
Oh,
good
that's
idea.
great. Thank you. I'll get that down. Thank you.
No problem.
Yeah. With the notes, unless you want to.
Yeah, no, just keep it in there.
Okay.
And so Cutler is just gonna be design build?
Yes.
Yes.
Are they the ones from the police station?
No,
No.
The Cardinal.
Cardinals.
Cutler, you guys did, and you've been here before, or your company has. I don't even remember where it was. It was
Right, yeah,
years
I'm not
ago.
sure.
It was a
And
few years ago. It was-
The bank?
Could be. I don't know. Memory's not that good. All right, well, thank you for coming in.
thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
Nice job, Vin, you're still ahead of schedule.
Well, we're getting there.
No, we are ahead of schedule.
so we can,
Because I'm so busy with all
Oh,
this, I
yes,
can't
you're not
talk.
distracting us,
Yeah.
thank you.
That's
Oh,
what it
yeah.
is.
Nice.
you want to go to the
All right,
citizen?
want to go to
comments?
reports of other
Citizens'
boards?
comments?
Any other boards, reports from other boards?
Oh, is Fire RV Flipping gonna be here?
Well, we
Well,
have to wait
they're
till
on
these-
for 8 o'clock, so I don't want to just pass over,
Leave.
because they may show up hopefully in the next 10,
Oh.
15 minutes before we leave, but
Okay.
I want to get everything else done, so if they show up, we can at least not be running too late.
Okay, I have no reports.
Other boards, no other boards?
Pat and affordable housing is going crazy, doing all sorts of wonderful
Yes.
things over, and.
Should I put that in the notes?
Affordable Housing Trust. is-
Affordable housing going crazy.
Well, there's lots of stuff going on, I mean.
Has been active,
That's better,
very active.
but it's, what in particular? You were there for,
I was there, yes. It was a question of how to break up the
oh, for
property.
the, yeah, for that
So,
property,
For
right?
the Maple Street property. They're researching, I haven't heard anything, but they're researching how to, just instead of trying to subdivide it, which there's not enough frontage to officially subdivide it, but make a parcel and have the parcel be what gets built out and have it.
What
on a
property is
certain-
this?
The
Maple Street?
It's the existing, community housing over there,
Okay.
Or Orchard Knoll.
Orchard Knoll.
Orchard Knoll.
Oh, okay.
So Orchard Knoll is just the front, and there's a great big piece of property behind it,
Okay.
that we're,
Right, and so, and what they need is they need to have some legal description of the back property, separate from the front, so that when they have a contractor come in and do the work, he will then have leased that property, and he has responsibility for the whole property plus.
actually, we're
right of
doing,
access.
what we wanna do is what they're doing.
What?
Like the senior housing.
Right,
The kind of things that they're making are what we wanna build back there.
Right.
Only all affordable and rental.
So what do you
Yes.
need, so what do you need to do with it? You need to, like,
we're doing research, or they're.
You have to make a difference between the state owned, or the state housing that's there now, and the back half of the property, which is what the town's gonna develop into senior housing.
oh, the state owned.
But the land is state land, right?
Well, the whole
State
piece of
is-
property,
State is giving it to the land.
they're giving us control back of the property, the back half of the
Yeah,
property.
that's what I'm saying.
They're gonna keep control over the housing part. Somewhat.
So we need a plan to define where there's access to get to the backland and the limits of what the backland is.
Is that the thing they were talking about, they go through the Temple Street, at 140?
You could,
So
except that it's
that's part of the backland. but they're not
Very
trying-
close to the
the
railroad.
train track, yeah.
Yeah, they're trying not to use that as a
There is a
real
little-
access, but if they need a secondary access, that would be an emergency access with a breakaway chain or something, but they're not, nothing.
There was a, yeah, nothing,
Nothing's been
nothing, is-
said.
that one time, they were talking,
Yeah,
some of the residents.
well, it is,
came in.
and they didn't, I think when we had a meeting,
Yeah,
nobody liked that idea. They said, we don't need more traffic on 140, we don't want
yeah.
that to be a
Just,
thoroughfare.
it does goes through their property, or close to their property.
Yeah, but, yep.
It
So
goes over
they
its
don't
own
want it,
property,
yeah.
but they're using it.
Mhm.
All right, so that's great. So Affordable Housing Trust has been active. Any
And
other
Ali?
boards? Oh,
Ali up on, what do we call it?
92 North, 92 North Main
94?
Street.
Yeah,
94?
92 North Main Street.
It's 92.
Change.
is gonna be done and lived in a couple of months.
Mhm.
And
So
there's
you
a
all-
Applied?
No, he already asked for,
whole bunch of people have applied, but I don't.
no,
think-
it's all rental. All the buildings are rental. No.
Oh, all the
sale.
rental, and they're doing a lottery for the affordable ones.
I know,
And there have
and
been
people-
applications, yeah.
Really?
Yeah, there
Oh,
are
yeah, a whole bunch.
17 or 18 applications
Wow.
for building C alone, I guess.
That's great.
As a one bedroom.
Oh, that one bedroom.
Most,
too?
yeah, building C is mostly one bedroom. I'm not sure it has a two bedroom. The building B is the one combination of 2 and 3 bedrooms, whereas building A is all 3 bedrooms.
Oh,
3 bedrooms?
Mm-hmm. They do have 3 bedrooms.
So
I
did
heard
we,
that somebody took a tour. of it.
80 plus units over there.
Did you take a tour?
You know,
No.
An official tour? No.
No.
no, I don't want to do any unofficial, nope.
I think Dave went up there to look with the building inspector at
Yeah,
some
but
point.
that's not right, right?
No, it was
Can
just
you
saying
do
that
that?
they're very
Yeah,
nice.
yeah.
They have nice, setups and furniture and
Yeah.
everything.
So I'm not sure, unless it is unofficial, I'm not.
You got just sign in, please? So that's good.
That's all.
So that was affordable housing and.
The FISP,
All right, yep.
so senior center, we do have a construction, Tony Duluccio, same person. And,
For the senior center. yep.
Senior center, and also the same company, architect firm,
Oh, really? Okay.
Kayola and Bellick, something like
Okay.
that. So there is a subcommittee along with the council on aging, going over all the preliminary plans. Once they approve it, that's going to, the architect will bring out the entire plan. So this is not going to go to October town meeting. So there will be a special town meeting. So which is most probably February,
Oh, special.
January or February.
To fund the whole construction?
For the
or-
second part of the funding.
All right. Good.
I'll have a report on transportation next time. We're gathering requirements for next year and all that stuff, so I'll have more information next time.
Oh, really? Okay. You're on transportation? Oh, okay. Good.
Yeah, I got bumped.
Nice. And CMRPC, anything there? Who's our? we were there
They've sent out a
last-
bunch of invitations, but nothing's happened, so hopefully September,
Okay.
I think,
All right.
or after.
We went to a trails thing. That
Oh, that thing?
Yeah, that's not planning board stuff, that's more open space,
Okay.
but we're trying to encourage getting trails to be able to walk from one town to another without
Oh,
getting hit by cars or using a car.
that's nice.
So I got a question. You guys doing the restrooms around?
oh, out there to the left,
Oh.
It's priorities.
like in the back
The
corner.
left and the right and the left.
Yeah, left, right, left, down the corner, down the hall, to the left.
To the left, to the
Well, it's not
left.
far, it's like, I don't know, 10
Can
feet,
you,
but it's around the corner.
Marks to the left.
All right, so you got that. So no other meetings?
Citizens comments?
Earth removal board?
Nothing in earth removal.
Good. Citizens, you want citizens comments? You ready?
No, I think we can
Or
do.
wait till he gets back and, you wanna go over minutes?
So where is our David Femia?
I don't know, we missed him.
Do we have to wait till 8 till after the meeting?
No, we just have to wait till he comes back. But
Okay, so it's not a
let's do
public thing.
minutes and we'll move it along.
Okay.
And actually, what else is in that file? Oh, Tata and Howard, there was a report on the 90 Sterling Street project. The water district is requesting changes to the connections for water on the motel, or the condos, where the
Oh,
old
yeah,
motel
yeah,
was.
yeah, yeah. Oh, yeah. I
So
saw
we got copies of that, just so people know.
Yes. I
Oh, no.
know.
So, sounds like they're working with them and making progress, so that's good.
Yeah, that's good, because that doesn't look like anything's happening yet.
And the meeting minutes?
Is that the 90 Swimming Street?
Yes.
Yeah.
Are they taking down the motel?
Yes.
Yes. Putting in,
Can you open
All right, so do we have any comments on the July 12th meeting minutes?
I don't.
no, I don't have any comments.
Do we have a motion to approve?
They were perfect.
So moved.
Motion to approve the July 12th.
I did.
Oh,
I said so.
Raj made the motion?
So moved.
That's it.
Mark seconded?
No, I don't want a second. I don't know what the motion is really. It's just so moved.
To approve.
So moved means motion to approve July 12th.
Well, that's what I was
Minutes.
saying. Okay, all right, then second then.
Okay,
All in
They
favor?
sound confused
I'll
on that
explain
end.
you later.
Yeah, I know, we're gonna have to separate the two of you guys?
Yeah.
It's like my mother used to do with the boys.
Right. You said boy, girl, boy, girl.
Yeah.
It's really tough.
That would be really tough.
It's working on that end of the table.
did you ask us if we all approve?
All in favor?
Yes.
Aye.
Aye.
All right, good. Right. All right, so that's done. All right, why don't we do, Flag RV before
Anybody else shows
he's
up?
back?
Ah,
I don't think anybody.
I think we're all
They got
set.
better things to do, I think.
Right, yeah.
You guys give yourself away with the shirts, you know?
Yeah, with our names and everything.
Good advertising, we're on TV, so.
Are you on the
Cable.
Yeah,
So-
come on down.
Both Mike?
You only hire mics there? You only hire mics?
Mike and
Mike,
me.
yeah.
Mics.
All right.
Mike, my brother Mike.
All right, so you were asked to come in by the building inspector, I assume?
By the building inspector who informed her,
By
you
the
guys.
planning board told
Yes.
us to come.
Yeah,
Right, the
Well-
letter came from him.
yeah. But yeah, he sent
It
us a
came
letter.
through.
Oh, he sent the letter, yeah.
The call.
So that's, which makes sense. Oh, and then you talked to Melanie and she told you what, okay. So I guess where we're going here is that the last we had on this, Melanie pulled out the minutes from some meeting, it says, I think you were there, the July 13th, 2016, where it talks about the site plan review requirements there, that there was not gonna be an expansion to the building, that it was gonna be just putting back the same building. And I guess in the meantime, the building has expanded. The site plan review requires, or the bylaw requires a site plan review be completed when you enlarge your facilities by 25% or more in a 10-year period. So I guess it looks like that's what you've done, but so it needs a site plan review, and that's what we asked you to come in to talk about. If you have some justification or examples of how it doesn't apply, then let's see it, and you may not
Well,
have
the
to.
building inspector, when I went to him and got the inspection, when we talked to him, I wanted to get, his idea, I said, I showed him the plans, I showed him everything, I said, this is what we're doing. He said, okay, no problem, he gave me the permit, we went through everything, went to conservation, came to the planning board, I already saw everyone, he said, okay, everything went okay. Now we're back again, and it's come up again, so it doesn't make any sense to us what's going on. I mean, everything's been okay from the beginning.
What size was the building that you took down?
And we were actually gonna make it like 8,000 square feet. We brought it down to 6,000 square feet. And the original was,
It was 50 by
60 by
60.
60? 50 by
50 by 60, so.
And
But I guess the
so I
point is,
guess
when we went to
what
the,
is it now?
it's 50 by 120. So yes, it has, but the building inspector should have known that we needed a site plan
Right,
review.
we
and
gave
brought
him,
it
we gave
up.
him the plans, we gave him everything.
So,
Well, I don't disagree with you.
right,
Oh, okay.
That part is, yep.
right. So I mean.
It was
we've
an
done
oversight
everything.
on his part.
Right.
So that's why we're not pushing and saying you're gonna be fined $100 for each day that the building was up.
Right.
Which the bylaws, probably if you read them hard, you could, but all we wanna do is get a plan to show that everything on that site is built the way it should be, and that it's in compliance with zoning. Because right now, if you try to sell it, it's in violation of zoning, and you're gonna have a tough time selling the property. So it's not really something we're pushing real hard, because, I mean, it's been going for 8 months. We've seen that it's been going on. We've been talking to the building inspector, and he hasn't wanted to do it because he knows that he messed up. And so it's like, okay, well, where do we go here? We worked with Pinecroft, we've worked with, who's the other one that came in, who's,
Like
like
the business
Pinecroft has
center?
been there for 30 years. And they came in because they were planning on selling, they couldn't
Right.
sell it until
Because
they
they need to
got
get the,
zoning compliance.
and they want to do business center.
Right.
Get the business.
And so what I suggested to Bentley at we had a meeting last month to talk about like 11 sites similar to this that have kind of fall through the cracks. But we were talking about it, and I guess there's some other condition on your property where you can only have 100 vehicles. I'm not sure, it was with that was a selectmen's thing is what I had heard. But if you come to us with a site plan review for 500 vehicles, you get that, you
Get
get
it
the
approved,
permit, it
you're all
gets
set.
approved. I don't know what, if you're gonna have 3 businesses there, or you're gonna have 5 businesses there.
Just flag
Just-
RV.
One, so that's.
It's a
so-
service garage, that's all it is, and at the last meeting, that's what the question was
Yeah.
too, if it was a multi-business building.
Because I thought that
Right.
Timbuktu or something was a separate
Timbuktu's been
business.
going for
But the
years,
last
but
meeting-
that's our
That building.
building.
The
That's
last
flag
meeting,
RV.
we went through every,
Yeah, we did all this at the
all that,
last
you know,
meeting
do we
too.
need a special permit? We went through every line, no, 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 and everybody signed off,
Right,
and they said, we don't need to. We gave them the plans, the size of the building,
right.
and everybody
Was the
signed
building,
off.
the 3,000 square foot building or the 6,000 square foot
The
building?
The
6,000.
one that's there
Right.
right now,
The one
yeah.
that's there now, and everybody in the
Right.
meeting signed off.
Because I remember you asked what other businesses were going in there, and we said, no, it's just a service garage.
Right,
So I
because
think
that
it's
would have been
one
the business
office.
center permit.
Right, and it isn't a business center, it's a flag
Yeah,
RV.
it's just one.
So, and that part's fine, that's
Right.
good. So
Yeah.
I wasn't sure if you planned in the future, because you've got 1, 2, I think 3 buildings. Oh, actually, you got, no, that's another lot. on the
I
other
thought one
one, right?
building was
Yeah,
coming
two
down.
different addresses.
Yeah, it's two
Different
different, yeah.
But, and it's a different, separate lot.
76, 66.
Oh, really? Okay.
So that one over there is
Each one
good.
has its own permit for parking.
Yeah, 66 is its own, the service building that we built is on 76.
So, so that's good.
Yep.
So what I think we were talking about with the building inspector was if you needed to go to 3, which it doesn't sound like you need 3 businesses, and you're not gonna do that in the future. You got 1 single business.
Yeah.
It's not, even if you had 2, you could still do that, a mortgage company or whatever else that might be there. So that doesn't trigger it, but what does trigger it is the building size. And from the minutes, it says you came in that you're not increasing it by more than 25%. And if you go from 50 by 60 to 50 by 120, it's more than 25%. So that's what should have been
Why did
discussed.
everybody sign off then?
Were you planning to take down the building?
That I-
The building, go back and gave me the permit. I
Well,
went in,
it's down
I
now?
gave him the
I
check,
thought there was a
I
building.
told, I
coming
showed
down.
him the
Yeah, and that's
business.
what you said, it's down.
We gave
It
him
makes
all
no
that,
sense.
he's the one that.
Now, you know how much money it's gonna be to get a site plan review and do all that? It's a lot of money, and
I assume-
I don't foresee us paying that.
Did you
So
do a-
You guys are gonna have to vote on it and figure out,
Did you
I'm not
do,
paying for that.
Hold on.
Well, there's no vote that we can take. You could apply for a variance to the zoning with the ZBA.
Mhm.
That's how, we can't grant a variance. We can't say, no, you don't need this. The building inspector can't say, no, you don't need it. If the bylaw says it's required, he may misinterpret it. And then, so we let it go a little while, we kind of work it all out so that it can happen.
Mhm.
But you're in violation of the zoning, so the only way to correct that is either to comply or get a variance.
you can get a variance just that says you don't need a site plan review?
They have to prove a hardship to the zoning board of appeals.
Yeah,
Which-
Dave was here, we can ask him. Oh, no, you're in here.
Yes, it was waived.
It's
What was
not,
waived?
it was
Site
waived.
plan
Plan review was waived.
It was waived in the beginning.
Well, I think we thought it wasn't
waived
waived.
twice.
It wasn't, these are the minutes
Right,
from
yeah.
that meeting. It
I
said-
understand what you're saying from your minutes there, but it's, from the commissioner of the building department, he should have known that. He should have known that we were taking a 50 by 60 down, putting up a 50 by, we wanted to go,
It was
yeah, it was supposed to be 6 bays, and the fire chief threw in and said we need sprinklers, so we went down to help appease him to not have to do it. And Bentley said that you do not have to do it, because we asked, we've been in the
Yeah.
town long enough, and they said, no, you do not need to go through it.
Right.
And he has the occupancy permit ready to go, we've complied by everything, building requirements, everything. So,
Conservation, went to.
Yeah.
They
We do
came
want
by, just,
cartoons.
Very, very
they
weird.
came by and
Everybody.
you removed vehicles off the lot.
Yep,
Got another thing, got another lot, removed the other,
Oh, but that was not for the site, that was for the
Everything,
100
everything that
vehicle
was
limit.
asked was done.
Part of the 100 vehicles,
That was
yes.
different, yeah, part of
We
it.
met all that, we've gone through all that, we're complying with all that. We're at every compliance with.
My
building
question
codes and
is,
everything,
so Bentley doesn't have the overall say in this town? Who has the, like, final say?
Well, nobody can
There is
waive
no-
I'm
it.
just curious.
Well,
No,
the
no,
final,
no.
the
No, but
final,
if he says you guys are okay and he signs off in the beginning, then all of a sudden we come back, now we gotta go through the whole thing again, I mean.
yeah.
I mean,
I don't-
that
that's-
doesn't seem right, that's
that-
my opinion.
I, and I
agree.
don't disagree at all. And
Oh.
I think the situation is that Mr. Bentley made or Bentley made a decision, Bentley Hurriot made a decision, and now he's saying that he made the incorrect decision. But you're still left with a zoning violation.
Right,
So we're at fault because he didn't do
But
his job.
all,
yeah, but we're not
Or your
pushing
attorney
it.
didn't pick it up.
I just wanna say this, is
Attorney.
that if we learned that we needed a site plan review, you had to do this and this and this and this, all this other thing, all these other elaborate things to the site to get this done, it could
Now.
have been, well, now this building is way over budget and decided to scrap the whole thing. So now you got a building that's, just saying,
If you,
come to bring the property into compliance cost $1 million and the budget was 500,000.
oh,
The project very well could have said, "Well, scrap the project because $1 million isn't in the budget.
okay, we're not gonna do it, make that
Okay,
decision.
Based on,
Had we known
Okay.
in the beginning of
so
it.
now you kind of strong arming. Based out of the events that happened, yes, there's now a building there.
Right.
Okay? But now now the building's built and everything, and it's already
We
over
went
budget.
above and beyond.
It's already way over budget.
I mean, regardless of anything.
Right.
Yes.
With the cost of
The-
the
the-
drainage and stuff, we had to do
Everything
that.
we had to
So
upgrade.
you did your training engineering and you did sort of some site work planning, I mean, you did some sort of drawing, or
Yeah.
plan, you know,
Yeah.
I mean, it
Based on
doesn't,
what the
we had-
Then we
conservation,
did all the excavations.
based on what the
And
conservation
commission wanted,
commission wanted,
Right.
we complied to.
and you have all the drainage.
All the
work.
drainage is in, everything's
We have
done,
everything
based on what the
conservation wanted,
conservation wanted. The
DCR,
sewer, we went
yeah.
back and forth with with drains from the plumbing code that was just like,
Right.
nobody even knew what was going on.
Right.
Nobody wanted to take
Once it- yes,
responsibility
once
for it.
was-
But did you get
Did
somebody
take
in
the-
to-
the floor
to-
drains?
Yeah, we
We got
had,
it
we
in.
had to saw cut all the concrete, put floor drains in, do everything.
Oh, in the
That was all
building.
Beyond the building,
Yeah.
after it was all poured,
After
when
the fact.
everybody said no, and then as soon as the concrete was in, they said, you need floor drains.
Now you do.
So now the
So we
problem,
went 40,000 over just on cutting the
Just on
floor,
putting
and the
it-
drains
yeah.
in.
so the problem is because, to be blunt, the town of West Boylston doesn't know what hands washing whose, okay? Nobody know, so the building, nobody knows what direction it's going, so now Flag RV suffers from it
Well,
because
okay.
of it.
I don't want you to
And-
suffer, but it sounds like you did
So-
the site plan work, you just didn't make it a site
But
plan
the site
review.
plan review was waived, so now you're
It was
going,
waived.
so, all I'm saying, it could be just saying, okay, there isn't a heck of a lot to do here to come into compliance, okay?
Hopefully
But
that's-
there's a lot of cost in engineering,
That's
all
what,
this, all this other stuff,
Right.
okay, that is involved to get this site plan reviewed and accepted by the bylaws, okay? So what if, I go through this all the time.
Yeah.
I see projects that people have spent 10 years on. They go through site plan review, they say, no, this has to be done, that's gotta be done, that's gotta be done. No, the property already costs too much money, scrap it, throw it away, we're not moving forward on the project. Because of the site plan.
because they
review.
decided.
Could have been the same situation here.
Yeah, we
Okay,
were-
but
the
now
building
it's
we
already
had
over
was
budget.
antiquated to what we needed to do, so we were just trying to upgrade it.
Yeah.
We weren't trying, just a little bit bigger, our RVs are pretty big, you can't just put a little basic.
So
I mean,
you're-
We weren't trying to do, it needed to happen.
So how
for our business.
much building square footage did you have before the project and then
What
after
was
the
it before
project?
and then what was it after?
Uh,
50,
From 3 to 6.
Yeah, 3 to 6.
3,000.
Even, including all of it? I mean, like if, I'm trying to make it
Well,
25%.
3,000 square feet there, we went
You're
there.
not gonna make it. I mean,
Because
just
if
to
you
look
include
at
the
it.
Timbuktu
I tried to
building
make
and some
it
other
easy.
buildings.
Well, I tried to make it easy and say, okay, well, if we had them take down the Timbuktu building
Yeah,
and just had the new building, they're still over the 25%.
They're still over
At least
25%.
based on Google Maps from a few years ago. I looked at what it was and just estimated the footprint of each of the buildings.
Two different addresses.
I have
No.
to,
Oh, the Timbuktu building?
Timbuktu is
Yeah,
84.
it's another address.
Yeah.
Oh, there's a
That's
third
84,
address?
76, yeah.
a different.
Finish
address.
three.
Three
Oh.
physical numbers on that.
Oh, because I was trying to give you a larger, start with
Right.
building area,
Right, if you took
so that
that-
you added 3,000, maybe you're at 30%, and then you could
I
say,
mean, let's be realistic. The old building was a piece of junk. We upgraded, it looks nice, let's just move on. I mean, I hate to get that way, but
Well,
I
no, and
understand
that's-
you got
This is one building though,
I
right? This
already
was
won.
one, this was from one building,
I mean,
okay.
It's not.
I have to
The
play
street
devil's
looks
advocate.
nice.
I have to play devil's advocate though,
Yeah,
and the
sorry.
board might not like this, but Bentley made a huge mistake. Bentley should pay for it.
well, he's not gonna pay for the engineering.
I know that. So the town has to have something to give to these people because it wasn't us that made the mistake. It wasn't them that made the mistake. Bentley made the mistake. And we can't make them responsible for Bentley's mistake.
Well,
That's true.
Then
Had
the-
we been
then the only
told it,
twist you
we
could do-
would've Done it.
I mean, like, can you do ZBA? I mean, I don't think anybody can
When you go
waive
to-
site plan review.
Mark, when you go to ZBA, it will, there
It
is,
has to be settled so that
yeah, there
legally
is
you
no
have,
hardship.
you need something legally.
The hard,
And also
that's,
ZBA,
this is
Had
what
in
they're saying,
compliance.
if there's a hardship, a financial hardship, that they would have decided differently.
This is
That's
not a
their
financial
hardship.
hardship,
no,
but
it's
this is a
not financial
hardship.
hardship.
They would, if they knew about a site plan review initially, they would have incorporated that into their.
Oh,
proposal.
oh, right, oh, right, right,
And they may
That's
not
right.
have built it, or they may have
Right.
built smaller.
That's something different.
No, I think they should go to the zoning board.
Well,
Skip the
but
site
can
plan
the,
review.
well, my question is, can the ZBA waive site plan review? That's, I don't know if they could do that.
It's zoning, so they can
Yeah.
waive it, but I don't know that you're gonna have grounds under,
Yeah,
to get a variance from ZBA, you need a hardship case. This may meet the hardship, if you can come up with the costs for all that stuff, that may convince and may stand
Well, I
as-
think the hardship
hardship.
is the, not only financially, but I think that there's another hardship here
Yeah.
that is outside of the financial realm that.
Well, no, they tried and
You
they.
could do that
they
to a
Tried
mountain.
it, I know, but somebody made an error and that,
Yeah,
I
there's
think
a
the
mountain
zoning
So
in
board
that's,
there.
should
that is
consider.
the possibility, so.
The project, the land isn't getting used for anything more than what it always has been.
No, I'm not saying that, I'm saying that the variance is for
Yeah,
financial
we're
hardship.
not
because of
disagreeing with the
financial hardship.
project, yeah, I mean, they're not, nobody's disagreeing with the project, and yes, it looks nice and it's great, and we're all for it. It's just that there's a legality here, and it's our responsibility to make sure that there are legal guidelines, and it also protects you, and it protects your business, so that, like Vinnie said, so that if you go to sell this, it's right. You want it to be right. So somehow, some way, we gotta have it be right. Personally, I would try to go to the zoning board and do it that way. It's more
Get
work
them
for
to waive
you,
their
I
fee.
understand it's more work for you,
Get them to
but
waive their fee.
it's a,
Well, but yeah, and I think that probably would be the way to go, is to check with the ZBA, but what you should do is get a real estimate of what the costs are, and then evaluate those costs. I don't know who you used as an engineer, but you pick an engineer. and
But
you
if you've
work with
already
them,
done the
you
work, it
get
might
the
not
numbers.
be, it's a drawing, but
Somebody
if
has
all
to
it is
draw
is a drawing,
Right.
maybe it's not that bad, but if it's writing up a report and some other stuff, actually, the cost will probably come up with the VHB, the review cost.
Right, but in the past, we've been able to cut that down. when it
Especially
was-
since it's all done,
Yes,
you know?
right. But it's one of those things is that you're gonna have to evaluate whether you're gonna go to the ZBA, when you come to us, or whether you're just never gonna sell it. I mean, I don't intend to initiate, the fining mechanism, whatever the mechanism to punish you on that.
no.
It's just to try to get things squared away, is all. Right. So I guess it's in your court. We appreciate you coming in and talking about it and reviewing all the issues. And I was kinda thinking you were gonna be expanding and doing something more, where a site plan review, you just get it done once and it's good.
Right, the next project, if you did site plan review, would cover it all. Right. I mean,
Right.
But it's something where you've gotta get a
You're
real.
advising to get
real
an
estimate.
engineer to go to the ZBA with us and have him talk to them.
Well, I would
Explain how the
advise,
site
yeah.
work, right?
I would advise you to go to get an engineer, see what the costs are, really to come in, because you can ask for waivers on the site plan review requirements. We've done that all the time. You can look at our site plan review. It's posted on the web for Pinecroft Dairy.
Yeah, they
We
didn't have to
got a-
do anything, they
we got
did
a
sort of a
list
cartoon
of,
site plan review.
Yeah, a list of waivers that we granted, because it was already under construction. The only thing we saw on that was that they had to change from what they had always done, is they had a couple of parking spaces right on Prospect Street
Yeah, they were too close to the
that
road.
were backing out into traffic. So we said, can you get rid of those? Because he had enough parking spaces. He's like, yeah, we can get rid of those. So he didn't line those when he went and lined the whole thing. And talked to, what's the guy's name? Is it Peter? Not Peterson.
Eric Peterson. Oh,
Eric?
the owner,
The owner.
Eric Peterson.
Eric. So he's from town. You can check with him how much it
Pinecrest.
cost, who he used, and see what how bad the process was.
And they
And
did
then-
sell, and they did sell the business.
And
They
he
did,
sold
yeah,
it.
they did.
They sold the
His last
business.
name is Pearson.
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 And so you can then get that information, so you really have your numbers, and you can see what's going on, and then you have the engineer evaluate what it would cost to go to the ZBA. And then you can also evaluate just letting it sit and seeing if it all goes away, which it's all been documented too much to really have that happen, but it's your call.
So just say, we're not looking to sell today. Say in 10 years from now, is this something we can do, or is this should be happening now? Or say we go in 10 years and say, hey, you know, you want to, I'm just
Right.
curious. Is this
Right.
In 10
something
years,
that-
if you come in with the site plan review, I'm not sure what the
Well,
board.
you'll still be on the board, we'll be on.
I don't know, you
Yeah.
never know
Yeah.
what you're gonna get on the board, because sometimes you get some people who are more aggressive than others, and other times it's the opposite, and it's a crapshoot. Do the regulations ever get easier? I mean, that's, 10 years from now, there's gonna be new regulations put into place that you have to comply with.
straighten it out now.
Use Eric
But-
Pearson's numbers. Just use Eric's numbers.
Yeah,
Ask
he's
him.
willing to give you the
Yeah,
costs.
You know him.
Because his site is very similar, he was going for a business center,
So he had to do it just for that.
right, because he didn't do any changes to the building, it was all interior
Yeah, it was a
changes.
pain.
Oh, yeah,
I think, yeah,
it's not gonna be a simple $2,000 fix, but it's, how much is it worth to you, and you guys are gonna have to make that decision.
Just come up with some.
So it's our
So
responsibility.
the waiving of when they said it was a waive, no, that.
There is no such thing as waiving it, it's a zoning bylaw, so that he
Just
missed,
misinterpret it properly.
Yes. It was, he thought that it didn't trigger a site plan review. He didn't say that doing that's okay, and we waived it.
Right.
He just didn't pick up that it was more than the 25%, which would trigger
Right.
the site plan
I think
review.
we even asked him if it needed it, just to make sure.
Yeah, I
that
know
it
I
had
asked
everything covered, and he said, no,
Really?
we're all set, so.
Yeah.
And that's why when we
No, I
got
think
this,
he-
we're like.
No, when he came to us, he admitted
Yeah.
that he had made the error.
and we had spoken to him when it
Why
was,
do we have to pay for everything? Why do we have to
Makes
pay
no
for
sense, but,
It doesn't,
Hey.
it just
Well, I
doesn't.
guess part of it was
you
right.
know, we don't wanna get a lawyer, but I'm
Right.
probably gonna have to get a lawyer. that's
no,
gonna-
so what I think is, when you talk about who's paying for what, it's one of those things that it should have been done initially. So you would have had to pay for it then. You've gotten a year, 2 years, 3 years where you haven't had to make those payments. So would you have, to pay for the site plan review?
Yeah.
If you were to have gotten a good response from the building inspector, you would have said, yeah, you need site plan review, you would have gotten your prices and decided whether you were gonna do the work. Now you're 2 years down the road, you're gonna have to get those same prices and see whether you wanna do that work.
Actually, I guarantee that drain in the floor, you wouldn't have had to do that rework
Right.
if you,
Right, we would
because
have picked
the
that up.
reviews would have picked that up. I mean,
That's one of the things we look at, and that's, no one thinks site plan review is helpful, but as part of site plan review, we look at all that stuff.
when all that stuff would have been looked at, all the drains outside, all
Well, the thing with the drain is that DCR says that there's no drains in the town of West Boylston.
Oh,
In
into
the
the garage.
watershed area.
In garages, in any
In-
commercial building, you
so
don't want any drains.
Just about every
Yeah.
building
You look
in the
at your
town
town, the police.
had to cement up their drains.
Yeah.
The
They
town of
put
West
cement.
Boylston Highway Department cemented up their drains by the
Because there's-
watershed rules.
I thought they just needed separators.
Yeah, I work for the DCR, so I can't get into it too much, so. But in reality, it's not true, because like Reservoir Garage had to put the drain in and tie it in. The gas station doing repairs that just went in over by the old Wonder Bread had to put a drain in, and it had to connect to the sewers. So it's not true that it's the DCR, it's the plumbing code. And the plumbing code, I know the DCR says no drains going straight into the ground, but those aren't allowed anyway.
But
So,
we're not talking
But the
about
idea
that.
is that
But
it would have saved some money, but
Yeah, and-
we're
I
already.
talked to the sewer
water
department,
under
the
it.
sewer department said, absolutely not, we do not want the drains tied into our sewer.
Oh, they say, that's true, they don't want water drains.
Right,
into,
but you
sanitary
can't,
sewer.
you need to have a separator, you need an oil and.
They need a stormwater
separator,
separator.
so you need all that stuff, and
Yeah.
they should know it, and unfortunately, not everybody knows what they're doing, so that's where we run into
Seems to
trouble.
be a problem in
Right.
town,
Seems like
unfortunately, not to knock
These
it, but-
departments should kind of
Right.
talk to each other.
Well, that's.
Because
We had our first
Bring it up,
meeting
yeah.
a month ago, and that's what got at least him saying, oh, go talk to them. It's a start.
Yeah.
But I totally agree, we should be talking, because it's not doing the town any good to have people doing a
Getting
building
confused and, you know.
and not having
Right.
all the information that they need, because it's happened on a couple of.
Weston and
sites.
Sampson, how many times I spent on the phone with Weston and Sampson about this sewer pump? And
Oh, do you have a
Weston-
grinder pump in the
The
property?
grinder pump, so
Yeah.
Weston and Sampson says, well, what's the water and sewer superintendent say? So I called him.
It's
He
a-
says, what does Weston and Sampson say?
There's a big circle.
So
of
what's the spec on the
project.
pump? Neither one of them could give me an answer.
Yeah,
Weston Sampson just doesn't have a canned formula for the size of the building or
They
something?
should. How many bathrooms, everything else, that's all you need to
I
calculate.
said, it's not their jurisdiction, it's.
well, you're not paying them for it, because they work for
The town.
the town, so if the town asked them to do it, they would do that, but
Right.
it's all a game, and, I mean, I think it might be something where you send something to the town administrator, because that's the one who, she's supposed to be getting everybody to play nice together and know what they're doing. And it seems like you've got a reason to make a complaint anyway, or at least ask the question and say, this is what's going on. And, maybe she'll have some idea of how to address it, because she's been doing it for 20-something years. She may have seen something like this in Hubbardston or wherever else she was.
We gotta figure it out, or somebody's gotta figure out what they'd ask the ZBA to waive, because I'm not sure.
Well, no, it would be a variance, it's not a waiver, it's a variance. So you have to prove hardship, and it's section.
Oh, just a straight up hardship to say they don't wanna
Section
do.
3.6 of the zoning bylaws.
Can the ZBA, because of the error in the
That's,
commissioner,
Can that be part of the hardship?
can they waive the,
I think so.
that's a grounds for the waiving?
well, that's.
We need
ZBA
Chris.
makes the
Chris
decision.
would make that decision.
Right. So there, but they would ask for a waiver on the site,
A
section
variance.
3.6, I'm sorry, a variance. On section 3.6B, projects requiring for new
What is
construction.
considered a hardship?
It's a legal thing.
Legal?
It's a legal definition, but generally, it's a high standard to meet. A hardship is where you have to show that there is, a financial hardship and then a hardship specifically associated with that property, the topography, and the site, that, the reason why they can't be in compliance. I don't know how you're gonna say that the site really meets the standard for a hardship, because the site has been built out, it works, and everything is okay. But if you can somehow get it to go just for the financial hardship, if you have the numbers to say, it's gonna cost us $50,000, we can't afford it, it doesn't meet our pro forma, whatever. you
Well,
have.
I would do that argument you had before, which is, had we known this starting the project, we would have done the project differently.
Right.
So the
Right.
hardship is even worse now, because we may have to undo something, I don't wanna tell you how to do it, but I mean, like, that's the sort of thing you have to.
And
more
again, it-
budget, now it's gonna be more over budget. I mean, it's-
But the-
I mean, that's
but the thing
exactly-
is, right now,
It's is the hardship to start, so.
but there's also not a huge rush, so it's not as though you have to call an engineer and say, I need you out here tomorrow, and he charges you 3 times because it's the summer, and he's busy, and
He needs
doesn't
a
really
boat.
wanna be out here. You can show us you're working on something, and then we can say, okay, well, it's gonna come in a certain amount of time. I mean, we've been waiting for
You could even say,
all
yeah,
these
in 2 years we'll get
Gerardos
this or
to do
something.
the parking lot for 3 years. And they're still in business, still operating, but they're parking in an area where they're in violation of the zoning. But we're not jumping up and down, but we are pushing now a little bit, because it's been 3 years and we haven't heard a word since. So it's not like you need to call someone tomorrow and get them out there and do it at 4 times the real price. But it is something you need to get some prices and make your decision. And it's not our decision, really. But I think we'll give you a reasonable review, knowing that you've been in town, you've sponsored sports teams, you've done all sorts of good community support stuff, so that always weighs in your favor. But we can't really promise that if you come in with a sketch on the back of a napkin, that it's gonna be okay. That's-
Well, paper towel then.
Maybe not fountain, make it a good paper towel, yeah.
We would call, what's his name?
Pearson? Oh,
We got
Andres.
Andres.
Andrazi, their company got taken over.
Yep.
So that's gonna be a different cast of characters. But they do this work.
Yep.
You know?
and if they already have your drawings, I mean, that's better.
Yeah, that's,
Oh, yeah.
yeah, he's got the whole site for everything, so.
Right. But I would check with Pierce.
He probably got
You,
All right.
I
Any
mean,
other
I-
questions that we might be able to answer?
I mean,
He's gotta draw up the site plan, how we're gonna do it, and,
well, unless, I mean,
We're gonna get prices
I
from
would ask them, and if it's too expensive, then you pursue the ZBA way, you know.
What is it, and and
Well, the
what's
CBA is
there,
gonna do.
and what's there that doesn't comply, and how much money does it cost to comply?
But see we're very happy if you come in with a sketch, or like a preliminary and say, okay, we got these 5 things that don't comply. We don't comply with
Right.
the shade tree portion of the parking areas. We don't comply with the traffic study area. We don't comply with this. And then we don't comply with the inadequate parking for the facilities. Well, we probably would give you the waivers on the first 3, but if you don't have enough parking according to our parking bylaws, that might not fly, because our parking bylaws have shown that they're really not that tough, because everyone that comes in has to put in more parking for the owner of the property, because they know that they're gonna need more parking than what is required. So, it's one of those things that matters what you're asking for, and Doug would be able to pull that stuff together.
And and the other thing would be the other things that would be reviewed would be like the drainage calculations, see what he did. You know, if he's got his he said, yeah, I did all those calculations, then he's not gonna have to charge you for them again, for one thing. You know, you can just submit those calculations for
You did
review.
those for the Concom, so it should be, it's the same, we use the same standards, the
Something
DEP
different, I got a
standards.
quick question. Pavement, right? Say we already got pavement in a certain area, just wanna redo it, that doesn't matter, right? You guys own an area, we're not adding to pavement.
You're changing the number of parking spaces.
No, it's just getting old, we wanna tear it up, put some new pavement, do you have to come to a meeting for that? I mean, it's getting old, we wanna just,
Yeah, just a building permit?
Generally, you wouldn't have to do anything.
Just to repair.
The trouble is, did you get a permit? If you did, does it
I haven't
service?
done anything yet.
Well,
I
let's
wanna
say-
ask you guys now while we're sitting, it's a.
I know, that's a
Yeah,
great
good
question.
question.
Let's say 5 years ago, you put that pavement in, or 10 years ago, you put that pavement in, and it's pavement for 15 parking spaces or more. You should have gotten a site plan review then. If you go and adjust that and rip it out and redo it, that's 15 or more parking spaces pavement, you should come in for a site plan review for that as well. That,
No, I'm just saying, tear it up.
but I agree.
It's
but
full.
He's saying,
But
when did
is
you
it-
get the
is
parking
it
spaces
15
approved
or is it
earlier?
15 or more parking spaces is usually the trigger. And unless it's already gotten a site plan review permit, any alteration for 15 or more parking spaces, which is the second standard in the site plan review, would trigger a site plan review. And then we would we would look at a site plan review, and if you're just doing the parking, that would be, okay, give us a real basic sketch, almost the same thing as what we'd be looking for the whole site, except for the drainage. Well, no, we probably want drainage if it's
It's
paved.
just like a small, I mean, like,
Pavement.
I got like a few spots, I don't wanna just,
Two
almost
spots.
patch, basically.
Keep it less than 15 parking spaces.
Oh,
And then
that's
there won't be a
what we want. Keep it less than
The
15.
bylaw says.
This year,
15
then do the
or
next
more
15 parking spaces.
That's how, oh, okay, I just wanna know what the law was.
Every 15 spaces. But it's 15 spaces every 10 years.
Hey, you only can pay 15 spaces every 10.
No, without
Without
tree
site
grading.
plan.
Without a
Years
site plan,
ago,
but if you're gonna do
yes.
30 spaces, you just do the site plan review, because it's not really
It's an easy, it's a
that big a
project.
deal.
Okay, I'm just curious, I wanna know the law.
And that's a good
all.
question. And if you have more questions.
I got a, it's getting old, it's full of the pavement on, there were the yellow houses right there, that area up to 66.
Yeah.
It's, you know,
Oh.
we've had,
Right
we gotta
there.
do, hook up to the street, you know what I'm
So
saying?
you dug it up 3 times.
Super- Yeah, it just looks old, it's just,
Right.
nothing to do, but it's gotta look nicer, they're not trying
Yep.
to.
And while you're doing it, if you're doing something like that, what we try in our zoning bylaws, when we go through the site plan review, we've had problems with they call them conflicts, it's accidents with traffic. So that if you have a big wide opening where you just really only need 30 feet for one going this way and one coming that way, but for some reason you got a huge opening,
Right.
cut the opening down and narrow it up so the traffic really is focused and knows where they wanna go. Because you end up having people pulling in and then someone's cutting across because they wanna get across the
They're
Route 12
leaving in
traffic.
different directions.
And they pull in because it's such a wide opening, they're pulling in on the outcoming car's space. So narrowing them down is good, and that's something in our bylaws that we would want included whenever you do any paving stuff.
You
And
say parking spaces 15, is that counting our inventory as that's a parking place or parking spots for customers that come in?
I didn't think your inventory was on paving, I thought there was something, and this is from 10 years ago, where they didn't pave, they just put grindings down, and they said it's grindings, it's not really paved, so we don't have to do a site plan.
Yeah. Well, up on the top of the yellow houses, there's pavement up there, it's been there for 40 years.
Yeah, that pavement, right.
But I'm talking up there, it's getting old, that pavement, you know, we're getting, you know, sinkholes and water run, you know, you wanna.
It settles, right, it's.
Yeah, it's settled.
Are there line spaces on it right now?
Yeah, and, well, in
Yeah,
front, we got,
just for customer.
for customer parking.
So I mean, like that would just be
So
replacing.
as long as you
space.
have the 15 and then you make it aisles for traffic, so 24-foot wide aisle, what I've seen in the past is you get the 24-foot wide aisles and you park your vehicles, your display
Oh, yeah.
in one of those aisles, and it's just like a one-lane road. So 15 is the key number, and we just want to try to keep playing by the same rules with everybody. Whoever comes in, it's, if you hit 15 spaces, it triggers site plan review, and that. I guess
Adding
that's-
15 spaces, but so if there's someplace that they say 15 spaces exist, we've got them permitted.
A driveway's 15, isn't
Yeah,
it?
there.
That doesn't
Every
driveways.
time.
No, it's not 15, no, it's not the area of 15 spaces. 15 spaces
Maybe
is
I'm
10
confused. I'm
10 by
sorry.
20 is
Space.
the area of the space, or 9 by 18 according to our bylaw.
Oh, okay.
So that's but it has to be a space. If you have a driveway that comes down to that's 50 feet long by 24 feet wide,
Yeah.
we're not saying that you can't.
Oh, that's not included?
Oh, it's the actual spaces.
It's adding spaces, like even if you changed your lines
We're not
around.
adding
there.
anything. I'm just
They're not
ripping up with the old stuff.
Yeah, we're just
new
trying to
stuff.
fix the existing that's.
Right, I'm not adding zero.
Falling apart.
Adding zero.
But if, the trouble is on this site is that they
Yeah,
haven't
there's
gotten
no
the
established
permit.
number of spaces.
So
So-
everything on this site, there's no site plan review, so if they hit 15 spaces, it triggers site plan review.
That
If
would
they
be
go
the,
over 25% building, it's.
like if you had a site plan review that said you had 45 spaces, you could go repave all 45 spaces because they were
No,
established.
we have a site, it's 35 units, RVs on that site.
Right, but you don't have a site plan, the site plan review trigger is 15 spaces, and if you had a site plan review done.
Like, do you have a
that got
document?
permitted,
We've had a site plan review.
You do? I didn't find any in our
Years ago.
records, it might be interesting to find that.
Doug did it, Doug. you did it.
Definitely.
I
did
thought
a
he
site
did.
plan.
I thought I did just conservation stuff. Well, if you can bring that in, then that.
Then maybe that's,
Well,
what you-
it's still, your building is still.
that's on the other property though, that's not on the, yeah.
66, we just,
Oh,
it's all, I mean,
Yeah.
it's
So
all,
that's-
it's gonna look good for everybody.
Yeah, but I mean, like if you
I'm
have
not
something
adding
that
any more
says
asphalt.
all those spaces are permitted, or approved at some level,
Yeah.
pave them, put them up, do them all again, I mean,
right, like.
that's all we're
Sarabian-
looking for.
Sarabian down at
Yeah.
the Salter School, he got permitted for that whole site, and he just went out last summer and repaved 50
Right.
spaces anyway, and he didn't have to do site plan review.
Because it was already.
That-
Because it's already
That-
established
well,
spaces.
That didn't trigger site plan review, the site plan review was triggered by.
Couple of farms and all
But
the
yeah,
other
it's
stuff.
been, my father started it 40 years ago, I mean, it's been there, and it's not,
Wait,
we're not adding any more asphalt.
What's the year?
All I'm asking, you just need to rip it up, put some new stuff.
Make it smooth.
81.
What's the year that,
Yeah, it's 1954 is, you have to be before that,
and then you're scot-free.
yeah. That's right. Ouch. Tough crowd.
Well, he's doing the paving, that's why I want
Right.
to make sure he does the right thing.
Well, if you can find some sort of site plan review, that'd be great, because then it's,
Right.
those are the spaces, they're approved,
Yep.
you have at it.
Yeah.
I think that's the reason why you should say it at 15, because then
Right.
you can't, nobody can come in and say they're putting 15 new spaces in.
Yeah.
Right, so if you can find that, if you could get a copy or get an original to us, we'll make a copy here, just so there's something at least in the record, and someone says, well, what's going on over there? We say, well, they've got a site plan
Just
review.
keeping
They're
up their
just
site plan
repaving
review,
the
yeah.
site, or
The established
area
plan,
over
whatever.
there, so. That would make it really
I'll
Does
easy.
that help
I'll
with
check
this,
into
does
that.
that help with this this?
No,
Well, except that you're talking about the
it's a
other
separate-
property.
It's a separate lot.
Yeah,
so-
Yeah,
I mean, look in that same
Yeah.
file, if there's more stuff on this,
Yeah,
for the
there's
other
something
property,
else.
you know?
Well, we have, like, when we had to
We'll have to look
rip up the,
We'll have to look, yeah.
Yeah.
We'll see what Doug has on record. What we have on record, too many papers on record.
It's gonna be a big file.
Yeah, it's a,
We get a whole stack of them, and it,
yeah.
because of the
So
moves.
it doesn't go by a square
Building
area,
a
it
whole
goes
new
by
site.
the parking spaces. So if you have,
Well, the trigger is the number, is
Asphalt.
adding 15 spaces.
if you've got
That's-
asphalt, like, say, just hypothetically, like in front of,
Like all
say
not
you wanted
space,
to
just a,
repave in front of the service bay. There's no parking spaces there. That's lanes that get into the service bay.
As long as it doesn't change your drainage calcs, if it was impervious,
and it
If it
stays
was-
impervious.
Right,
Paved.
which it
We
is.
added, we didn't add
We
it, that's
didn't
one
add
thing we did, we didn't add any
Yeah,
pavers.
no.
so then it doesn't trigger.
We have
site plan
millings
review.
too, that's pervious.
Yeah, it's impervious.
Yeah.
Millings are not impervious.
Oh, yeah, they are.
No, they're
Do they
not.
count as pavement?
Have you ever seen the water flow up through
Yes,
millings?
yes.
I've got millings on a couple of sites where it doesn't perk through it.
We do it all the time.
Yeah.
I have it in my whole lot at my shop, and the water goes through it. Believe me, the water goes through it.
You got the right ones.
I don't know, it's okay.
Must have got regrinds. Those are impervious. Inside joke, you know?
Some people add stuff.
Binders.
Some people add emulsion they add emulsion to millings when nobody's looking, or they add,
Yeah.
you could go out there and spray it with diesel fuel, and it'll bind up again, and then it will turn pretty hot.
Yeah.
Right.
Hot day like
Okay, so that might
yesterday.
be-
So- But you put down millings and roll it,
Yeah,
it's
just
pervious.
stone, man, that's all it is, crushed up stone, that's all.
But there's
Yeah.
people do things that they're not supposed to all the time, and that's,
We know.
Really?
It wouldn't be here if.
you can make it
That's it.
tight.
All
up
these
pretty-
stupid rules are in place because every wording is in there is because someone didn't do it right. The only reason site plan review is in place is because of Dunkin' Donuts. Because you got people going in on the left side when trying to do a
Driving into
drive-through.
be
that's a good-
That's what triggered site plan review in the town, was
Oh, really?
Dunkin' Donuts access. Because there was none before they put that in, and they're like, well, we don't want that to happen, nope. We have to put something in the zoning bylaws, okay. And then we had Salter School go in with all that parking, and everybody complained that it's a big parking lot, it's just hot, why aren't there any shade trees? Well, there's a couple of things in here, it requires shade trees for every
Heck, complaints.
30.
Yeah.
Hey, I'm not happy with those trees, there's some more trees in that parking lot.
Yeah. Yeah. So that's where it all comes from, is that process. Yeah.
Yeah, that's fine.
And we're stuck with having to do it. Well, we get to do it, I
I
guess.
see those.
Yes, we get the
That's
honor.
Parking lot, quite a-
So this 15 parking spaces thing, if you've got 10 spaces
Yeah.
with a 24-foot aisle behind them to back into and move around, you can do that. You can do that whole area. But if you just do the 15 parking spaces and not the aisle, even though it's probably less square footage of asphalt
I
change,
got you.
you would trigger the site plan review. So the wording, we have to go right by the wording,
Yeah.
15 parking spaces.
You do the whole lot, but not the parking spots.
You don't have 15 parking spots.
I'm saying, what did you hear what I said? You
But
can do the
that's-
whole lot, but not the parking spots.
Right.
That's what,
All right, so that's.
we can only go by what the rule says.
Yeah,
So
no,
it's
I
based on
understand
number-
it now. No, I got it now.
So you should get to be an expert at these and
Right.
just what you
Yeah.
can get with. And that's what Doug does. He,
Take that book home and read it, and then we'll.
it's online.
And on the second page, you're asleep.
Maybe you should have.
I don't know if I'd make it that far.
Yeah, get back, yeah, get back.
But second page is asleep.
Can't go there. But, all right, any other thoughts, questions?
I don't think so.
Patriots gonna win this year?
Yes.
I'm all in, I don't know. I guess we gotta just, so zoning board, basically, is what you're saying.
So zoning board.
Try to leave us from the.
Get together your hardship stuff, you know, so that.
Yeah, we gotta call Doug and we gotta get.
And if you want to come back with just some information, we meet on September 13th and then the 27th.
That's on
So
Wednesdays.
if you pull stuff together and you're like, well, what do you think about this? How much more would we need on a plan?
And if you find something that's, you know,
We'll bring it right up to you.
Sounds good.
But we appreciate you coming in.
All right.
Yeah, well,
Thank you.
Thank you.
Have a good night.
You too, thank you for
All
coming
right,
by.
we're up all the time. Yeah.
Sign out.
No, everybody stays.
Everybody
Everybody stays.
Bring the visitor badge.
So, we left off with citizens' comments, but I think we're good with that.
That was, yeah.
Motion adjourned.
And then it was
Um,
approved payment
signing
of
bills.
invoices, yes.
Do we have bills to sign?
I signed these.
Okay, let's put that in here for Melanie.
Sure.
Just 1, 2, the review for the Bethlehem Baptist Church, and
Wait, did we do something?
it's old
They haven't even
bills.
come in.
It's
The VHB thing?
$300, $400 from like old billing,
Okay,
names.
couple hours. Oh, under review, I don't know what you did. Mileage? Oh, you came out to see it?
They weren't so happy.
Yeah, but there's
They-
2
they
hours
weren't very
Yeah.
happy.
for
I
Wayne,
don't either.
And then
because he came to a
half an
meeting.
hour. Okay,
So motion to approve the bills for 137 Shrewsbury Street and, what's that one?
oh, I thought, Bethlehem Bible, I don't know what the address is. 307 Lancaster.
307 Lancaster.
Did you make the motion, Vinnie?
No, I need someone to motion. I can't.
Whatever you, the 307 Lancaster and 137 Shrewsbury Street, bills, and those projects.
How much money?
One's $3,000 for the 137 Shrewsbury Street,
The other one is 406.82.
$406, yeah.
406, 82 cents.
Which one is this?
I second.
Redevelopment of 137 Shrewsbury Street.
I
That's
second the motion.
Okay, it's discussion 137 Shrewsbury Street. Oh, that's the,
Three
there's 3
parcels.
parcels. That's, Rob Fuller,
Yep. and
Oh,
this-
okay.
the revision
that's
to.
good.
All in favor?
Aye.
Oh,
Oppose?
Any
Nice job.
opposed?
Aye, aye, aye.
Aye,
Took
all.
over.
Yeah, she's
Did we
jumping
vote?
in, that's
Aye.
good.
Yeah, we did.
Aye.
All right. Thank you very much. Oh, wait a minute.
Oh, another motion?
Yep, and 307 Lancaster Street, the second one for 307 Lancaster Street.
$70.
Well, we'll,
1,000.
seeing how it's for
1,300.
the same place, I think the
Yep.
motion
That's all right,
was to approve the both.
yes.
So what do we do for $1,000 there?
This is a different month. We didn't meet for a month.
Yeah, but $1,000, we haven't looked at the project.
No, they're still reviewing it. They made a whole bunch of comments and they're talking with the
Oh,
designers.
they are, I thought they weren't doing anything. They're
Oh,
just,
no, no,
they're just
they're-
not ready to come to the meeting.
Right, they,
Oh, okay.
right. Bethlehem Bible
Yeah, they've
Church
been doing
is
stuff.
contacting VHB, so they're getting billed for their.
Okay. Is there enough money in the account to ask for more?
I think it's okay.
Is this Melanie's or yours?
Melanie, that's Melanie's.
Okay.
All right,
All right, I
So
make a
we're
motion
gonna
to
check and
adjourn.
see if we- Are you still,
do we have a second?
second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right, adjourning at 8:35. No records here.